Hello, this is Spartan Commander, and this is the 292nd Rome Total War Brotherhood battle that I've put onto YouTube. Straight away you'll see this isn't the usual flat featureless map. This is the Pripyat Marshes map. I like this map because you get the best of both worlds really. You get big open plains if you want to go and fight out in the open, or if you want to do woods ambushes, ambush tactics and things like that, and bring barbarians so they get a woods bonus, then you can also do that on this map as well. As I say, it's really got the best of both worlds. Okay, our first teammate is Brotherhood member Spartan Leonidas. Leonidas, I believe, has been playing RTW since it first came out, so of course he's got a wealth of experience here. And as you can see here, that the rest of his SPQR army are hiding in the woods. Remember, the general is the only unit that can't hide. And as you notice here, he's bought his general as a Praetorian cavalry unit. That's unusual to see these days. Our next teammate is Brotherhood member Legion 22, who has bought the Macedon faction. I believe Legion 22 and Brotherhood member Gladius have become really good with pikes over the last few months. And remember, we talked about the Greek clan being the best clan on RTW with pikes. Well, I think Gladius and Legion 22 will certainly give them a good run for their money now. They really are good with pikes. And Legion 22's faction of choice is Macedon, I believe now, and Gladius's faction of choice is the Greek cities. That's how good they've become with pikes. Okay, our next teammate is RTW player Lee, who has bought the Rome Julii faction. And our last teammate is myself, Spartan Commander, who has bought that 11-year-old Britannia army again. Do you remember, I think it was a battle before last, we wanted to see how well it would do on the modern battlefield? Well, I've bought it again to this interesting battle. Okay, so there's our team. Should be a great one to watch. Okay, at this stage of the battle, I thought we'd have a look at this old 11-year-old army of mine. If you remember the battle before last, I bought this army just to see how well it would do on the modern-day battlefield, and I've bought it again to just to see how well it would do once again against modern players. There's my chosen swordsman there. So I got 9. I think they're fully upgraded chosen swordsmen. Then I've got the head hurlers there. Remember, those heads they throw are effective against armor and bring a big fear factor. And of course, the more fear you can instill into the enemy team, then the more chances are of them routing. You kind of destabilize their units. But as you see, I only got 5 head hurler units there. Then we move on to the infamous Britannia chariots. As I said before, I think pound for pound, these Britannia chariots are probably the best in the game. They've got scythes on their wheels, and one driver and a swordsman in these chariots. They don't run amok, and they've got excellent morale. So, as I said, pound for pound, I think they're quite good. And as I say, that's my old Britannia army from 11 years ago. Now we're going to have a look at Lee's army here. If you notice here how he's got a checkerboard formation, I believe that is a real genuine Roman formation there, the checkerboard. And if you notice, his pilot shield unit is unusually a town watch unit. Now, town watch units obviously aren't very often bought to the 31k battlefield, but if you can get them to stand, they'll soak up pilers as good as any other expensive unit. So there's no harm in bringing that if as long as it'll stand and soak up the pilers. Also, I'd like to draw your attention to Lee's old school armoured cavalry general here. If we look at the upgrades, can you see they are fully upgraded? That unit is fully upgraded. It reminds me of any of you know King's Marcus? Very good with the Roman armoured general, Brotherhood member Uther. And of course, the co-founder of the Brotherhood, Conan, was extremely good with his Roman armoured cavalry general there. So it's nice to see a bit of old school there. Should be interesting to see how well Lee's army does during the course of the battle. And here is the other team. We have Wolves member Cappy. Now, it's nice to see a Wolves member back on the RTW battlefield. A lot of you modern players might not have seen a Wolves player on RTW, but at one time there was a lot of Wolves players, and they were all great 31k players. A really great clan the Wolves were. A lot of veterans will remember them well. I'd just like to draw your attention here to Cappy's very old school formation. Can you see how wide that formation is? And this is a formation we used to use maybe up to 8 or 9 years ago, before we turned from wide into depth. Modern players now have obviously a less wide formation, but units in depth. So it's nice to see a bit of Cappy's old school formation there, and it should be interesting to see how well it does during the course of the battle. I see he's got 2 archer units as well. So as I say, that is the old-fashioned wide formation there. Okay, their next teammate is our RTW player Tut. A lot of you will know Tut, very good 31k player. And if you notice here how he's got 3 Spartan units in open order stretched out, well, the reason for that is to cover his archers there. You may have been anticipating a fast cavalry attack from our team there, so those pikes will stop cavalry hitting his archers there, and also it's a good cover for his ally to move in behind those units there if there was going to be a fast cavalry attack. And there's a bulk of his army there, so that looks like a pretty good army to me that Tut's bought. Remember, these Spartans got 2 hit points and have got excellent specifications, so it'll be interesting to see how him and Cappy do on that left flank there, or the enemy's right flank. Their next teammate is RTW player El Cid. Now a lot of you may know El Cid, very good 31k player. I think he may well have a different name possibly, but in this particular battle he's called himself El Cid, and I see recently he's called himself El Cid, so whether he has got a different name or not, I don't know. And their third teammate is RTW player Hornet, who has bought the Rome Brutio faction as well. I noticed that he seems to be a pretty good player as well. As you can see, most of his army will be hiding in the woods. So there's the other team there. This has got the ingredients to be a classic, and a few technical questions too. Okay, at this very, very early stage of the battle, where we're all just trying to form up at the moment, can you see that Spartan Leonidas is moving over to us, and the enemy are trying to do a fast attack on him. An aggressive, quick, early attack on Spartan Leonidas' army there. You can see the enemy green Brutii troops moving in towards him there. They'd love to smash into his flank, plus you can see that cavalry coming around as well. Probably like to hit into the rear of his moving troops there. If you notice, I've moved my chariots over from the far left flank over here to support SL as he moves across the battlefield there, ready to charge in if needed with my chariots. As you can see, very aggressive tactics here by both Brutii players on our right flank here. I think Hornet and El Cid here are targeting Spartan Leonidas' army. Looks like maybe trying to do a 2v1 attack here on SL. As you can see, Hornet's army is coming around. It wouldn't surprise me if Hornet tried to flank in action to come around to the right of SL's army there, while SL is being pinned at the front. Let's just pause the game for a second, take stock exactly what's going on. As you can see here, Hornet's army and El Cid's are both looking to attack Spartan Leonidas' army here. As you can see, I've got my chariots at the back there that I'll throw in if needed. And you can see I'm running my Britannia army over to this right flank from the left here to try and support SL if and when he needs it. Right over here on our left centre, you can see that the Greek cities general is being extremely aggressive here in attacking our Macedon ally, and Cappy's green Brutii army is not far behind his Greek cities ally there. And you've got Lee's army there to the left, our Macedon ally on our left flank. Not a lot going on there, but I can see that he's got his armoured cavalry general there, probably looking to try and target those enemy archers if he could. But as I say, it looks like the main battle's kicking off here between Macedon and Greek cities. But as I say, Spartan Leonidas is going to have to play it smart over here because he's fighting potentially 2 armies. If you notice that this map slopes a little bit from right to left, with the right being the higher ground. So as we talked about in other battle videos, whoever's got the slightly higher ground has got a slight advantage there. So I mean, cavalry and infantry attacks coming in from that area there would have a slight higher slope advantage. You notice I'm still running my Britannia army over to this right flank to try and help SL for when he needs it. As you can see, his forward Piler Shield units are exchanging Pilers with the enemy Piler Shield units there. But as you can see, Hornet moving his army right round to the far right. As I say, my guess is he's looking to try and charge into the right flank of Spartan Leonidas' army. Now, just like to draw your attention here, can you see the way that Spartan Leonidas' army is moving? Slowly, out of formation. Okay, let's just pause the game for a second. What's actually happened here is Spartan Leonidas has dropped from the game. We gave him time to come back in to the battle, but he didn't, so in the end we had to kick him from the game to be able to continue the game. Now, most of the time when we do that, we terminate the game and then rehost. But this battle was fought about 1:15 on a Sunday morning, and it was the last battle for several of us, so we decided to carry on. It would only be a short battle anyway, because as those of you who have fought with an AI ally, you know that artificial intelligence or an RTW is very poor, and basically it's kind of hardly worth fighting really when you've got an AI ally. And of course, as you notice, I bought the Britannia faction, which may be looked at as a lesser 31k faction. So I think we thought the battle would be over quite quickly anyway, with an AI ally and maybe Britannia there. So we decided to carry on. As I say, this was fought about 1:15 in the morning, and a lot of us were going to go after this battle, so we just decided to carry on, just to have the last battle of the night, if you like. But if you notice that the AI has kind of knocked out Spartan Leonidas' formation, it'll move units towards the enemy in piecemeal, and probably move units across the battlefield as well. That's how poor the AI is. And if you notice that Hornet's coming over as well, so my guess is that Spartan Leonidas' AI army will be taken out. And if you notice, I've just got across there now with my Britannia army, but I don't fancy taking on two full Roman armies with kind of an AI ally over here. So I may well look to move my army back over to my my human allies over here. Okay, over here on the left, centre and left flank here, you can see that the battle's really progressing here between the Greek cities units and our Macedon ally here. Right, if you notice here, can you see how thick those Macedon pikemen formation is? How thick that formation is? And for the Greek cities to attack those thickly grouped pikes there is a big ask, I think, even with their great specifications. Can you see how long those Macedon pikes are and how short in comparison the Spartan spears are? Yeah, the Spartans have got great specifications, as we talked about earlier, but to penetrate that massive kind of hedgehog, if you like, formation there would take a lot of doing, I think. And as I say, Legion has fought Greek cities many times with that Macedon army. Right, if you notice, Spartan Leonidas' army, as I say, is the SPQR army there. Now, if they were the enemy, if I was the enemy team there, I'd be looking to maybe bypass that AI army and smash into the flank of Legion's pikemen. What do you think, all of you watching this, new players and veterans alike? Do you think you might just try and bypass that AI SPQR army and just try and attack to take out this Macedon army as that flank is wide open now? Could that be an option? As I say, my Britannia army there, I'm trying to, I think, move up towards my allies there now, because I know that I'm not going to face two Roman armies with an AI ally over here on the right. But as you can you see how the AI is moving SL's units around, walking them round? As I say, it's I just imagine this would be quite a short battle here, as we're up against four really good players, and as you can see, we've got one AI ally, and I've got what some people would call a lesser 31k faction, with being Britannia here. Right, can you see El Cid's cavalry coming down to smash into those SPQR units? And bang, as that cavalry hits, routing those couple of SPQR units there. And as I say, you know, the AI army attacks in piecemeal. If you notice here, like, odd units attack here, odd units attack there, and as soon as they become AI, the formation that SL had them in is just all broken up. So as I say, it's not looking very good on our right flank there. Meanwhile, over here on our left, centre and left flank here, you can see Cappy using his Brutii cavalry there to take out the AI cavalry general. Remember, SL's cavalry general here just been taken out, was just a Praetorian unit, so that will lower the morale of all the SPQR troops, as well as there being AI as well. Let's just pause the game for a second. As I say, for the Greek cities, Spartans to attack dense Macedon formations here is a big ask. You can see how many dead Spartans, you can see their red cloaks there, the dead, how many have been killed in fighting those densely packed formations. As you can see, Cap is using his cavalry very well there, taking out some Macedon cavalry units, I believe, and he's got his infantry here facing Lee's infantry. But things, as I say, over on our right flank not looking all that good. As I say, it wouldn't surprise me if the AI SPQ army is taken out quite quickly by the two Brutii armies over there. And as I say, I'm going to move my army up to my human allies over here on the left flank here, and see if we can make a last stand, if you like, over on the left for when these two Brutii armies have taken out the AI army there. Let's say moving my troops up back over there to the left. But I was just thinking, if one of these Brutii armies had just concentrated on this AI army just to take it out, while the other Brutii army actually raced over to the other flank to help their allies out, that might have been maybe a possibly better target there. Because at the moment you've got two enemy full Roman armies here attacking an AI army. So whether that's a good tactic or not, I'm not sure. I think I would have sent one of the armies over to my allies there. Let's just pause the game for a second. So as you can see here, you got Hornets and El Cid's army here attacking our AI ally, smashing that army up pretty good. I can see Lee's brought his Julii cavalry across there to maybe help out the AI army, or slow them down at least. But if the enemy there, can you see, and this right flank of ours is wide open if the enemy charge in there. But as you can see, the Greek cities and Macedon are really fighting it out here. But as I say, it's a big ask for those short-speared Spartans to break through densely formed Macedon pikes there. As you can see, Cappy is moving his infantry over to that left side of the Spartan line to try and prop up that side, as it seems to be breaking under the strain of those Macedon pikemen. As you can see, I'm running my army up to the left, as I said I was. I've got my head hurlers here, throwing their effective against armour and fear, bringing heads onto the enemy troops. What I'm aiming for is that Greek city's general. If you notice, you can see he's got 50 odd men there, but those head hurlers will be reducing that number considerably. Plus you've got the Macedon pikemen attacking him as well there. So of course, if we can just rout that Greek city's general, even with their great specifications and excellent morale, that will lower the morale of the rest of their troops. As you can see, there's loads of effective against armour heads going straight in on. Here you go, the Greek city's general there. But do you remember a few seconds ago, he had about 52 men in there, and now he's down to 2 men. So that was quite effective use of the head hurlers there, and a combination of the Macedon pikemen. If you notice here, can you see that Lee has brought over some of his Julii infantry there to try and help out his cavalry there to try and help out his AI ally, but he lost several of his cavalry units in that attack there, and if he's not careful now, he could lose the rest of his Julii cavalry there. Can you see how Cap is charging his Brutii cavalry in there into Lee's Julii cavalry? And if he's not careful, Lee could lose both his remaining cavalry units there. Let's say it's a real tussle over here on the right. Let's say you've got Kappa's Brutii and Tut's Greek cities here fighting really well. There's a great team here on that right flank, waiting for their allies to come over. I think, right, let's just take stock of the situation at the moment. As you can see, Lee's Julii army facing Kappa's Brutii. You notice Kappa's sent over a lot of his Brutii infantry to help. Can you see that line of dead Spartans? And that was where the Spartans were attacking the Macedonians there. You can see, say, Kappa's sent infantry over to try and shore up this left flank against the relentless attack of those Macedon pikemen. As I say, I've got my head hurlers there, still throwing their effective against armour heads onto the enemy. So on this left flank, we're not doing too bad, but as I say, there's 2 full Brutii Roman armies on their way over here now. after basically destroying our allies' AI army there. There's a general view of what's happened. Let's say I've moved my infantry over to the left here, trying to support my allies. But none of my troops have suffered any casualties yet, so I've got a full army. But as I say, Britannia is looked upon as a lesser 31k faction. So let's say with the odds that we're facing now, basically, as I said, our AI ally has been taken out. The army's been basically taken out there, and there's two basically full Brutii Roman armies here moving towards us. I thought they might have moved over a bit faster there to support their allies, because their allies are in a bit of difficulty. A heck of a lot of the Greek city units have been taken out, and Cap is trying to do his best by sending units over to try and shore up this flank of theirs. So the Brutii teammates there, I think, should be moving over as fast as they can do, like. If you notice that Lee's moving his fully upgraded armoured general there, but he suffered so many casualties there that he's now had that general routed, which of course will lower the morale of his troops. And as I say, bearing in mind this, as soon as our allies' army went AI, it kind of turned into a 3v4. And with Lee's general now been taken out, the morale of his troops will drop, and that's kind of might make our position maybe a little bit worse there. Right, can you see that Brutii cavalry charging into the flank of those Macedon units there? Bang, as that cavalry hits with a combination of some infantry hits as well, trying to take out some of those Macedon pikemen there by hitting them in the flank. Luckily, I think the Macedon general spotted that and turned his pikes just about in time there and routed a couple of their units. From what I can see, I think the enemy now seems to have cavalry advantage over us. Let's just pause the game for a second, take stock of exactly what's happening. So over here on our far left flank, you can see that Cap has still got some of his Brutii units there, but Lee seems to be pushing forward with his Julii units. Legion 22's done extremely well with his Macedon pikemen there. But I can see some Brutii cavalry have got in behind their allies there, ready to charge in when needed. If you notice here, can you see that both Lee and Legion 22 have sent units over to face that attacking Brutii army there. But meanwhile, one of the Brutii armies here, a whole army, this one here, now appears to be running away from the main battle, chasing down AI units. Can you see they seem to be running over here, cavalry and infantry, the whole army, to chase down, routing, or some odd SBQ or AI units. Unusual tactic there, bearing in mind that his other teammate is trying to attack us there. You think they might have attacked in unison, really, rather than one attack. The only thing I could think of is I just wonder whether they're thinking, like, you know, we've taken out one AI army, we're only up against Britannia, as I say, a lesser faction, and they just want to attack the Brutii and Julii army there. Right, I'm just going to ask you a tactical question here. Can you see anything wrong with the way that this army has positioned itself? How the Brutii general has positioned this army? Veterans might spot this straight away, but I just wonder if newer players, looking at this particular part of the battlefield, can you see why the position of this Brutii army may well put it in a very precarious position? Right, let's look at it from this angle. Okay, so if you look at this army from this angle, what do you think the position of this army is like? Can you see any danger for this particular army and the way that it's been positioned here? Okay, so the way he's positioned his army, can you see he's left his flank wide open for my Britannia army to charge into that flank? I think he's still going to move forward a little bit further, which will allow my troops to charge into the flank. On top of that, I've also got all my chariots. I haven't suffered a single casualty, so I can move my chariots up behind those Brutii infantry or charging from the flank. And so I think that Brutii army's position in there could well be kind of maybe a little bit dangerous from its point of view, because now I'm going to charge in and I'm going to go for that general. I'm going to charge in with my infantry there. You see, straight away we've routed two of the Brutii units in kind of a little bit of a hammer and anvil attack, because if you notice, my allies have got units at the front of those Brutii attacking troops. Right, can you see the Brutii cavalry now? It's going to charge into my Britannia troops there, right? And here that cavalry comes, and bang, as that cavalry charges in. But luckily I spotted that cavalry, and I remember changing the direction of my infantry to face that attack. Can you see how viciously that cavalry hit? And bearing in mind it's got a slight, it had a slight downhill advantage there. Now, if you notice there, I'm bringing my chariots up as well. Now, they will bring a fear factor as well as big, aggressive specifications here. So now I've hit into the side, into the flank of that attacking Brutii infantry. I've brought my chariots up as well. If you notice, a lot of the Brutii units are starting to rout now. I see the Brutii cavalry are charging back in. They're charging in, and they're charging into the side of my chariots there, but I've switched direction to the attack, and I remember moving my chariots to attack that cavalry and my infantry to attack that cavalry as well. And can you see now that most of that attacking Brutii army that was basically fully intact now has been routed? Let's just pause the game for a second. There, can you see? Now, was that, do you think, watching this, that was poor positioning of the Brutii army that caused that? Maybe. But as you can see there, all that Brutii army, basically a full Brutii army that came over to attack us now, has now been routed. And we've still got our Julia and Macedon allies here, human allies here, still fighting some Greek city units and Brutii units here on the left. But that whole army that just came over to attack us has just been taken out. Now, can you see the other Brutii army there, Hornets Brutii army, that had been running around chasing down AI units, is now moving over to attack us. But maybe if they'd have attacked in unison, like, you know, both together there, that might have been the way to have maybe to have attacked us there. But as I say, the way that attacking Brutii army positioned itself there, it kind of like almost didn't take any notice of Britannia. My units weren't hiding there, they were out in the open, so he could see them, but he still moved his units over in a way that left his flank and rear exposed to a Britannia attack. Right, as I can see that Hornets, basically full army, is moving over towards us now. If you notice, I'm moving my Brutii army away from that, my Britannia army away from that attacking Brutii army. I don't want to try and take on basically a full Roman army with battle damaged units. So as you can see, that enemy Brutii army is moving up towards us now. Now, bearing in mind that both Lee, Legion and myself have got battle damaged units, but we've managed to rout most of the enemy team on this flank.
This is a hunt. No, a coward chase.
If you notice, I got my chariots now. Now the slope. Remember, the slope went down from right to left here. So my chariots have got a slight up hill or a slight up slope advantage here. Right, can you see this Brutii cavalry charging into my head herders and some Macedon archers there, and they've taken out our head herders and Macedon archers. Well, my head herders had used all their heads anyway, so that wasn't so bad really. Right, can you see this Brutii generals charging in? Right, okay, I've just paused the game here to ask another tactical positioning question here. Now, this enemy Brutii army is charged in to attack my allies here. Now, new players watching this, can you see, once again, a danger here in the positioning of this attacking Brutii army? Okay, if you look at that, is there any anything that you would say was a bit dangerous in the way for itself, for the way that it's positioned there? If you look at that, can you see that both Lee and Legion 22 are both waiting for that attack? They've got their troops positioned for that attack. But if we look at it from this angle, can you see now why maybe the positioning of this attacking Brutii army is a bit dangerous, a bit precarious, shall we say here? Just wondered if newer players just can notice that at all. See the danger that this army's put itself in. Okay, well, my Britannia troops are not hiding, they're stood there and with their chariots as well. And this Brutii general seems to have run past them, almost like treating them with, if you like, with contempt, I suppose, thinking, well, it's only Britannia, I'm not going to take any notice of them, and charging in to my allies, Macedon and Julii troops there, and basically just ignoring my Britannia faction. As I say, maybe the thinking might be, well, Britannia is a lesser faction, it's not going to do any harm. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to smash into the flank and rear of this enemy general with my fully upgraded, okay, battle damaged sacred, sorry, not sacred, but chosen swordsman. And I'm going to take my chariots round behind. I'm not going to go into the flank, I'm going to take it round behind and smash into the rear of these enemy troops. And basically they've opened themselves up to hammer and anvil attack. My allies being the anvil and my troops being the hammer. So this Brutii army, as I say, a very precarious position, attacking position here. It's going to be smashed into the flank by Britannia troops, hit in the rear by chariots, and then be pushed up against the anvil of my my allies here. Okay, so I've pressed the battle cry to give my chosen swordsman the extra attacking bonus, and I'm charging in, and I'm going for that green general. That's who I want to hit with my troops here. I want to hit with the charge in with the with my chosen swordsman and my chariots. Notice I'm taking the chariots round behind the enemy. I'm not going to go in the flank. I'm going to go for the very weakest part of that Brutii army, which has left itself open to attack, and I'm going to smash into the rear of that Brutii infantry. If you notice there, can you see I'm pushing my infantry forward, trying to get that Brutii general. And here comes my chariots going in there, and bang as those chariots go in there. Remember, they've just got good kill specifications, but they all attacking specifications, but they bring a massive fear factor as well. And if you notice there, as I charge them into that Brutii infantry, trying to kill that Brutii general, as well as any other Brutii troops I can kill there as well. Let's say it's like a hammer and anvil attack here, with my allies being the anvil and my troops being the hammer there. And as I say, we're desperately trying to kill that green Brutii general, but as I say, we will kill any other Brutii troops as well. I've pulled my chariots back and charged them back in again to get a full chariot charge bonus. As you can see, my chosen swordsmen are really pushing forward now, trying to kill that Brutii general. As I say, those chariots have got really good attacking specifications, but don't forget, as I said before, they bring a fear factor that lower the morale of enemy troops and kind of destabilise enemy units with that fear factor. You see that Brutii cavalry charging in? Right, okay, we've managed to do what we wanted to. We have now routed that green Brutii general. So now basically all his army now, morale will drop. You see that cavalry unit charging almost on impact, it routed because the morale has dropped so much since that Brutii general was killed there. Okay, let's just pause the game for a second to take stock of exactly what's happened here. If you notice, can you see that line of Spartans there, those line of dead Spartans? Remember at the beginning of the battle, that's where the Spartan general tried to attack those thick Macedon formations there. You know, trying to pierce thick Macedon formations, even with Spartans, is very, very difficult. As you can see, the red cloaked Spartans dead really show on the battlefield here, and especially that line there where they actually were coming right up against those thick Macedon pike units there. Let's say here you can see a lot of the Brutii enemy dead, because if you remember there, I think in that position basically both those Brutii armies were taken out there. Then we go back over to our AI ally. Remember the purple SBQR army was our AI ally. Can you see the dead where that army was basically taken out in that position, and turn this battle into a 3v4. But somehow we managed to turn that battle around there, bearing in mind, as I say, we did have an AI ally. And as I say, I did have Britannia, which some people may view as a lesser 31k faction there. So I think our team has managed to go on and win the battle here. Maybe against the odds there, but I thought the team played really well. Now at this stage of the battle, where we've kind of seemed to have won the battle, it might be a good idea for the enemy to kind of admit defeat. I bet all of you have been in battles where the outcome of the battle has been decided, and some of the enemy team refused to admit defeat, and and just kind of prolongs the game a bit, even though really the battle's over. In the past, we've actually terminated games where people have just refused to admit and just run their cavalry around the battlefield. So I see one of the enemy team has just admitted defeat, and I think it's just one of the enemy team left that hasn't admitted defeat there. But say you can see all the piles are dead there. A lot of my units are very battle damaged, but I thought that old Britannia army did quite well there against really good players and really good Roman armies. So really well done. There's a standard bearer. Can you see the standard with his face painted there, holding the standard of the Britannia army? And he's got the general just behind him as well there. So I say we're just waiting for this this last enemy player here to admit defeat. I think that might be the last units. If we can just rout those, that should be the end of the battle there, maybe. Unless he's got a unit hiding, because some players in a losing team sometimes hide units in the trees so you can't see them, just to just to prolong the battle, really. See, I think I was looking to try and see if I could see any enemy units that were left. And it's a telltale sign is when you see your allies moving up fast. There you go. That must be the last of the the enemy team's units that are left there. That last unit's not doing too badly. Routed a couple of the Macedon pike units there, but there you go.
Your warriors have driven off.
Finally ended. First thing I'd like to say is really well played to everybody in the game. Hope you enjoyed that battle, and I hope you enjoyed the tactical questions there, the tactical positioning questions there, and I hope you managed to answer them. Just like to take your attention here to Legion 22. 2,186 kills. Now bearing in mind he's only fighting 81 man units. There's no big 121 man units there. It's 81 man units, and he's managed to get 2,186 kills. Really well done, Legion 22. That's a really good kill count there. If you notice, our AI ally only managed to get 511 kills. That's not bad for an artificial intelligence kill rate there. It actually didn't do too bad in the end. But if you look at the kills of the other team there, they've got some good kills there as well. Some quite good kills. So well done to Hornet, El Cid, Tut, and Wolves Cappy. Got some good kills there. As I say, it's only an average victory, but I must say when our armies went AI, I never kind of expected it to never expected our team to win there. So we did quite well. That old army of mine, Britannia army, I thought did quite good. But as I say, it's 11-year-old army, and to bring it to the modern day battlefield and for it to do as good as it did, I was really pleased with that. Of course, you got the woods bonus, which really helps. If you look at the chariots there, the kills not brilliant for the chariots, but don't forget they bring that big fear factor as well that destabilizes enemy units, makes them more susceptible to routing. If you notice, one of my chosen swordsman unit has killed 186 men, and the other chosen swordsman didn't do too badly either. So as I say, if you think about using a barbarian faction, there's Britannia for you if you want to try it. So just to say, really well played to Hornet, El Cid, Tut, and Wolves Cappy. Well done, guys, well played, and really well done to Lee and Legion. I think between us we managed to turn a battle round that we maybe should have lost. So Spartan Commander saying, hope you enjoyed the battle, look forward to seeing you soon, and bye for now.